Captains of industry and robber barons. The industrial age of America was a period in which America's economy shifted from an agricultural economy to an industrial economy. Industrialization marked the shift to powered, special-purpose machinery, factories and mass production. The rich ones. Andrew Carnegie. He was a Scottish-American industrialist who led the enormous expansion of the American steel industry in the late 19th century. Buck Duke. He was a used tobacco and electric power industrialist best known for the introduction of modern cigarette manufacture and marketing and his involvement with Duke University. J.P. Morgan. He was an American financier and banker who dominated corporate finance and industrial consolidation during his time. John D. Rockefeller. He was an American business magnate and philanthropist. He was co-founder of the Standard Oil Company, which dominated the oil industry and was the first U.S. business trust. The robber barons were a series of people who forced their way to power in the late 19th century. Monopolists who had an arbitrary way of ruling. The robber barons were businessmen, the great American capitalists, who created massive business organizations, known as trusts, that enabled them to monopolize major industries which gave them the power to regulate the supply and price of products and commodities. Many of these men, called the captains of industry, were entrepreneurs who took risks developing the new inventions and technology during the era of the Industrial Revolution. Their determination and hard work earned them money, fame and success. These were men of vision who guided and built new industries and made a significant contribution to the economy of the United States. They were philanthropists. One of the robber barons of the 19th century was Andrew Carnegie, who was born in Dunfermline, Scotland on November 25, 1825. From about 1872 to 73, at about age 38, he began concentrating on steel, founding near Pittsburgh the J. Edgar Thomson Steel Works, which would eventually evolve into the Carnegie Steel Company. He was one of the most contradictory of the robber barons who also monopolized the steel industry. In late June, plant employees, members of the Amalgamated Association of Iron and Steel Workers, went on strike and shut Homestead down. Working in the mills was rough and hard. The people weren't being paid a low amount. They also had long working hours. The mills was a terrible place to work, and the work was of the inhuman sort that hardens and coarsens. After a short battle where a number of people were injured or killed, the state militia was brought in. The company regained control of the plant. Later that year the strike collapsed. Unfortunately, the events at Homestead stuck to Carnegie and his reputation for years. John D. Rockefeller was born on July 8, 1839, and started the Standard Oil Company. He eliminated all his competitors in order to gain monopoly in the industry. He did in fact treat his workers fairly. The pay was reasonable but he had bargained good workers in oil. Cherno 105, he was colluding with the railroads. But in his philanthropies, Rockefeller gave money in many ways strange and wonderful, often known only to himself. Some of the largest of his bequests to sociological foundations in later years, it was noted, were directed to the mitigation of crimes against property. Josephson 98. One of the captains of industries was J.P. Morgan, who was born on April 17, 1837. He was a leading financier who founded the Banking Company and Company in 1871. During the Panic of 1873, the banker J.P. Morgan bailed out the federal government by loaning the Treasury $65 million in gold. Some might say he was a robber baron. Most of the ways in which Morgan accumulated his money could easily be seen as corrupt. His stance on corporations was quintessential robber baronism. He formed monopolies in every part of the American economy, from railroads to electricity. His bailing out of the American economy seems like it should be a good act. However, he was very despised for this act due to the fact he directly profited from it. James Duke, born December 23, 1856, was a U.S. tobacco tycoon and electric power industrialist. He took over the company with his brother between 1880–1885. James Buchanan Duke. He is famous as one of the captains of industry for the Duke Endowment, a $40 million trust fund, and the establishment of Duke University. He developed a market for tobacco through advertising. When the market he developed started growing, he started buying up other tobacco companies in order to be the only supplier of the product. James Duke eventually formed the Great American Tobacco Company. In my opinion, the industrialists were both robber barons and captains of industry. They all did whatever it took to gain power, even if it meant destroying other companies or ruining people's lives. But they also helped improve the nation at the same time.